What's up? What's up? Letagonoli here again. Botsatlhogi. This is a follow-up session to the session that we had regarding how do I get started as a software developer, basically. So the follow-up here is, and this is more of a question that was asked by McDonald. Thank you very much for the question. And the question was, how do you choose technology? What in terms of the project that you want to be doing, basically, like how do you choose technology? How do you say this is the right technology, so to say? I think I was stumbling a bit on my words there, but that's basically that. How do you choose your technology that you're going to use, like the entire stack? So for me, really, there's different factors that we might look into. And the first question would be, who is this project for? Who are you developing it for? If you're developing a project for, let's say, for your employer at work, then we might need to look into what are the skills level or the skills that are available, the pool of skills basically that is available for you. So if, for example, your company is a .NET house, right? And you want to choose what technology to use, basically. I mean, that goes without saying that you should lean more towards what you have within your team. That's number one. And number two would be, what is the project for, basically? I mean, we've already found out that, okay, if it's for your employer, then you need to lean more to the skills that you have. But what is the project for? That's another thing. If it's a project that you're just doing like some sort of a test project within your company, or whatever the case might be, you're trying out new technology, then hey, then I guess it's okay to just choose whatever technology that you want to try out. Let's say, for example, now, if I'm developing a web API, I mean, it makes sense if I'm within a .NET house to go ASP.NET Web API, right? As opposed to going Flask or other technologies out there, right? So if, for example, now I'm being asked to build something around machine learning, right? Now that's another thing that we might need to look into. So when we look at machine learning, you start looking into, okay, what are the projects out there that I can look into, right? So to say, like what is the community, basically, for lack of a better word? How is the community for that? So if you think about it, in terms of community around machine learning, you'll see that Python is the one that's actually taking the whole world by storm around that whole topic, right? So that means now you would want to look at things like looking into Python libraries like scikit-learn, NumPy, and all of those. I am aware that Microsoft has ML.NET. I'm not just throwing that out the window. I'm just saying, looking at that, you're more likely to survive when looking into the other alternative route, like within Python space, because you will find more support there. Like there's more examples out there, and it's, I mean, let's be honest now, Python is more matured around these things here, right? So those are the things. So it all goes with, if I'm in my kitchen or I'm eating, for example, if I'm eating rice, what do I choose? Do I choose a fork? Do I choose a spoon? Now, if I'm eating pop, same thing as well. Do I use my hand? Okay. Do I use a spoon? Do I use my fork? Now, if we're saying we're using a fork or a fork in this scenario, let's just take that as a typical example. Say you're eating pasta and you chose to say, okay, I'm using a fork. Now, would you use the same fork to eat porridge, soft porridge, right? That's another thing you need to look into, or oats for that matter, right? So no, so you need to choose the right tool for the right job, basically. So that's all I'm saying in this regard here. And just to go around the whole point of community there, I spoke more about you must also look into community. I'll give you an example. I'm more of a .NET developer myself, right? So at work, we were requested to look for a workflow engine that is more open source. And I looked and looked and looked, okay? And I mean, I did find a couple of stuff within .NET, but I must say there were more within the Java space than there is in .NET. And I looked at, okay, there was something like activity. We looked at that. and from then on ended up with Flowable, right? Java still, right? Database Postgres, yes, you can tweak it to be whatever database of your choice, but that's basically what I'm saying. So I would have taken more time looking for .NET stuff, and even if I did find something, then the support is not really that guaranteed around that space. I mean, yes, it might be there if you know, but I don't think I would have received the same support that I got within the Flowable space because there's so many people using that. I mean, if you think about it, Flowable being a fork of activity, then almost I get help from both sides, whether activity or Flowable. So those are the type of things that you need to look into as well. So the other question is now, say for example, we're looking at size, the project size. I mean, that also depends, right? So, I mean, I'll give an example how I started off. I started off developing in PHP and building web application or websites, whatever you might want to call them, right? My web applications, right? So then as time went on and on, then you start looking at, okay, if I wanted to look at how to structure my code, for example, right? Project structure and things like those, and more enterprise level. Yes, PHP can do these things, but within .NET, when I look at your MVC or ASP.NET Web API, I could achieve those things much more easier. Well, not easier, but they're more enterprise standard, right? Not to say that you can't do them in PHP. PHP is quite powerful, but if you think about it from an enterprise perspective, most people are not really using PHP for these things. They're more on Java and they're more around .NET and all of that, right? So those are the things that you try to look into as well as you select these languages. And I think as well is what is your project type as well? Are you building a web application? Are you building a mobile application? Right, that's another thing. So if you're building a mobile application, for example, and you're like, okay, we want to build a mobile application within our company, then you start looking at what are the skill sets within my team. So then you look at something like, okay, maybe my team is more .NET or my team is more JavaScript. Say you have a JavaScript team, then they can start looking at things like React Native. I mean, that's another one there. But if they're more .NET, then they can start looking at things like Xamarin, like those type of frameworks there. And I mean, if you're starting from scratch and you're like, you know what, I want to look at something else outside there, maybe if you're just doing something for the sake of doing it and just to see how you can go about it, then you can look at things like Flutter, which it's a different language altogether as well, so that they're using there. So those are the type of things that you look into to say, okay, also what is the learning curve? Is it a bigger gap to learn or is it a shorter gap, like that type of thing? So if it's bigger, then you need to ask yourself that question as well, do I have the time? Because at the end of the day, time is also one thing. It might not be a luxury in this case. So those are the type of things you start looking at. And I think there was another question that you might have asked around security as well. I mean, if I look at web APIs, for example, within the .NET space, then we know we can implement things like, from a security standpoint, you can use your JSON web tokens, you can also use identity servers and all of those. So I'm not so sure about other frameworks or other technologies out there, but I'm sure there are implementation of such as well, because if you think about it, JSON Web Token is not specific Microsoft product. So like you can actually do that in Python. I've done it in Flask. So those are the things that you need to look into. So I hope I've answered you to the best of my ability. And well, you guys don't hesitate out there to actually give me feedback there and anything that you might like. Likewise, always subscribe there. Don't forget to do that. I'll see you next time. Botsatlhore.